Good evening, Brendan Corrigan.
Oliver Pritchard, how goes it? And it wouldn't be a Bogotá Nights without every now and again Brendan Corrigan having worries about internet and things like that. But I have an emergency solution in tow here because I was without internet for almost all afternoon. But my helpful neighbours have shared me their connection. So fingers crossed that we have no problems with the connection. We'll see how it goes. But
the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, plus ça change in your favorite second language, Ollie, the French. You love them, don't you?
Yes, massive fan of the French. Yeah.
How's your week been anyway? It's been a long time, 7 days or 8 days. How's it been?
Yeah, might have lost you there a bit, I think. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's not very good. But I was asking, how's your week been?
Yeah, final week of exams, so lots of marking to be done. It's all rock and roll here, Brendan. And you?
Okay, yeah, I'm I think that there is a bit of a delay. I'm hoping that this internet connection will get better quickly. But to be honest, and we are going to be talking about work and what people can do to stay here in Colombia on a longer term if they want to outside here as a tourist or whatever. At the weekend, on Saturday, I was back on a construction site doing a bit of hard physical labor. Now, I'm not or if working as a general operative or a person in my position to get a visa, because at this moment in time, I'm just 9 days away from my current visa expiring. Now, I do have an application in, and I'm just waiting for a reply from the Cancilleria. I guess if I was in Canada, Ollie, working as a general labourer might just help me to get a visa there, because of course the Canadians tend to be lazy and don't want to do that work, so they need manual labour. But here, less so. I think the Cancilleria might be thinking I'd just be taking a potential job away from a local who can do it just as well, if not better, than me. Although I can get amongst it, as the Australians say, shoveling what I was doing at the weekend.
Yeah, well,
but sometimes it's good, to have dirty and do some work, Ollie. Would you agree?
I'm not quite sure what I would be agreeing to, I'm afraid. But you're right. I mean, and Canada, of course, historically has always wanted Colombians. I'm not sure how much they aggressively target the Irish. I don't know.
Well, my brother is there, and he only he was there 3 years, and he already has residency. Today marks my 10th anniversary of being in Colombia, and I'm as far away from residency as ever. But we're going to get into all of that, and let's just run through exactly what we're going to talk about in our kind of main topic, what my internet connection is still just about holding here. So a good number of people do come to Colombia for holidays, or vacations, as they might say, north of the Rio Grande, and they really like what they see and decide they want to stay for longer. Now, certain passport holders are allowed up to 180 days as a tourist per calendar year, but what if you want to legally work and or be here for a greater period of time? Well, we're going to go through the various visa options available and the activities that these allow you to carry out. For one, in terms of work, is Colombia still a relatively easy option for English speakers to land in and start teaching the language straight away, even without the right qualifications that I know a number of us have done? Have you had visa woes in recent times? Or did you charm the Cancilleria to the point where they granted you exactly what you wanted? Nudge, nudge, certain influencers. Or indeed, do you happen to be hiring or know of people or companies looking for foreign talent and can sponsor a visa? Whatever the case, get in touch with us right now by using the live comment facility, and your messages will magically appear on screen here thanks to the Meta company, which runs Facebook. If you're watching this recorded, you can still get involved by commenting on where you're viewing or via tweet, the handle being @BogotAPost with the hashtag Bogotá Nights. Now, our Dummies guide to visas and work in Colombia is to come, but first it's our look at the week's most eye-catching news stories. And Ollie, this has been a recurring theme, I know, for us the last few weeks, but it is interesting nonetheless that the number of new neighbours you have appears to be growing by the day from reports I've been hearing. So what is the latest on the Embera indigenous in Parque Nacional?
Well, there's a bit of rumour and a bit of conjecture and a few hard facts. So the hard facts are quite simple. The encampments is expanding. In the past week or so, it's fully occupied the space that it was originally in, and it's started moving a little bit northwards now. So it's kind of crossed over the natural boundary of where it originally was, and it's starting to move across the park. So, you know, for example, today I saw new tents, you know, the framework for new tents being put up. So, yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's just a situation that's not being managed very well at all. People who work in the park claim that the indigenous people have been offered places to stay, subsidized work programs, etc., but they don't want to take it up because they're making more money begging. Whether that's true or not, I take that very much with a pinch of salt, in that I've heard very similar stories, you know, from pretty much everywhere in the world, you know. And there's not usually much basis behind these. What is true is that in the news, representatives of the Alcaldía and the Personería of Bogotá have been busy denouncing alleged corruption in the indigenous ranks, that they've been given offers to move on, but they're holding out. They're trying to get as much stuff for themselves as possible. It's getting murkier and murkier, frankly.
In terms of work, though, and excuse my ignorance, but I mean, what would they, obviously if they were in their homelands, they'd be farming the land, I take it, and selling the produce to the market towns or whatever, but like, what would they be doing for work anyway? So if they are begging, I guess that's additional income that they wouldn't be getting anyway.
Well, this is second-hand information from, you know, people who work in the park and definitely are sure that they know somebody who talked to one of the indigenous guys a couple of weeks ago, etc., 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 you know. The figure quoted to me was 300,000 pesos por día. And I thought to myself, you know, having worked as a bicycle messenger, this is exactly the sort of thing. I'm sure one person did make 300,000 pesos in one day once. I'm sure that's true. Whether or not that's, you know, what everybody can be expecting to make day in, day out, that's a very hard line, you know, to follow along. Yeah, and again, like you say, the details weren't, you know, very clear. You know, whenever you say, well, what type of jobs would they be having, and, you know, where would they be living? They'd be, oh, no, it's just what I heard. So who knows? Okay. I suspect there probably is some truth, sadly, in the official denunciation. There probably is some corruption among the leaders of the group who, it seems, you know, are trying to get the best deal possible. And frankly, who wouldn't be trying to get the best deal possible?
Well, obviously, yeah. I mean, my eyes lit up there. You mightn't have noticed, but when you said 300,000 pesos, 300,000 pesos a day, God, I'm thinking maybe I'm being facetious, obviously. But just to say that on Saturday when I did my construction work, in the past I've been helping this particular friend out, and obviously a change being as good as a rest, I was just happy to do some construction work and get my hands dirty and do, sweaty physical work. But he called me on Friday saying, can you go along and do the work? And he did, and I felt bad about this. He insisted on paying me at the end of the day, and he also fed me. So he did pay me 50,000, though. This is where I'm going with this story. It was 50,000 for an honest day's labour. So if somebody did make 300,000 begging, but as you said, Ollie, that would be once in a lifetime, I'd say, if you make that money on the street. Yeah, of course. Exactly. Yeah, the thing is, like, if people aren't that familiar with Bogotá, but Parque Nacional, big centre for Christmas, because they usually have wonderful Christmas displays and a lot of street vendors selling food and everything. So it's a nice evening out where people would wander around and look at the lights. Great for families and stuff. I guess all that's in jeopardy. So there surely must be a little bit of pressure on the mayor's office now to for the want of a better phrase in a sense, but to get them out before at least the start of December, and we'll say that by hook or by crook.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? I would imagine that Claudia Lopez is absolutely desperate not to have images of ESMAD, physically carting away children. Because, of course, the vast majority of people in that camp are certainly minors, probably under 10, I would say. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty ugly if the police have to go in there armed to sort it out, especially as it's now quite a lot bigger than it was even just 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, that's not going to be picture perfect, but there is absolutely no possible way that that you could run a Christmas display, and especially if we're thinking about all the stalls that we normally have and the kind of outreach program with children's theatre and all that sort of thing. That's not going to help at all. That's absolutely not going to help. David Allen Simmons here says, how can we help? I mean, I think that is potentially part of the problem, David Allen Simmons. One of the reasons that Indigenous leaders are very reluctant to leave the Parque Nacional is that they know they're in quite a strong position. They're visible. They can't be brutalized or evicted so easily without very unpleasant photo ops for the alcaldía. They're aware of that. They're receiving a lot of donations from people around the city. So yeah, there's no need for them to move on. Daily, they're receiving sacks of vegetables, rice, fruits, etc. Today we had a couple of school groups turning up with cooking utensils and the like. So yeah.
But I mean, okay, and I know we're probably going over old ground as well, but just to be clear in my head here, like, what are their actual demands? Are they now happy?
They aren't making any demands. I don't know where you've got this into your head. We've talked about this before. They're not making any demands. This isn't a protest. This is people who are homeless and have found somewhere to live. That's it. No more, no less.
But it's a demand in a sense, or at least they're making a stand, obviously, by being in the city centre of Bogotá and being, again, for the want of a better word here, but being an inconvenience for the park users and the rest of the inhabitants of the city for taking over that public space. So, like, I guess the point is, what would make them happy? What would make them, okay, this is X, and there you go.
So here we go. This is the big question, isn't it? This is the $1 million question. It does appear that they've been offered alternatives to live in. The reasons for them not taking up those alternatives are at best unclear. And just to preempt you, before you're saying, well, why don't you go and talk to them about this? You literally can't. There's a ring of steel. There's men with machetes at the entrance. They are not open to answering questions, apart from the carefully given press conferences and press releases and the like, and interviews for television. But there's definitely a very strong a very strong control over who is allowed to speak and who's not, apart from every now and again somebody, talks to somebody half-heartedly up in the forest, etc.
I wonder, is this making waves then in other parts of Colombia and amongst other indigenous and other groups, not just indigenous, that feel hard done by and have been hard done by, that they're kind of going, well, look at the stand the Embera are making. And if they do, because I guess this is the balance that Colombia always has to keep in mind, there are so many various groups that have demands and legitimate demands against the state, that if the Embera are seen as getting what they want after, what is it, a couple of months, or not too shy of that anyway, in Parque Nacional, that it could trigger similar protests or similar movements in other cities and in Bogotá again.
Well, it does require somebody to be homeless. I mean, people aren't doing this for the fun of it. This is, let's be very clear, this is something done out of desperation. It's not done for fun. I think there's definitely a sense that, look, a lot of ordinary working class Bogotanos are rankled here. I would imagine it's quite galling if you're working, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, a good couple of hours, if not 3, of commuting time as well. I can imagine that you'd be put out a little bit, by the perception that these people, this community of indigenous people in the centre of Bogotá are, in some people's eyes, being allowed to sort of get away with it, as it were.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the angle I've been trying to portray there, that there is that perception with some people, as you say, getting away with it. But of course, yeah, and to reiterate, and it now is.
Let's be very clear: the damage to the park is real. It's not imagined. This is not theoretical damage to the park. I mean, it absolutely reeks. I mean, we have essentially an open sewer at the bottom of the Rio Arzobispo, where it meets the Septima. Vast swathes of the forested region of the park, sort of above the formal park boundaries. Vast swathes of that now, where I walk the dogs at the weekend. It looks now like a boreal forest from northern latitudes rather than a tropical forest, because there are just no young trees. They've all been chopped down. David Allen Simmons says here they must be freezing at night. They've got an incredibly large supply of firewood. But you're right. I mean, it's not pleasant. They are, we're obviously in the middle of rainy season. They are constantly drying their clothes. You see the laundry being put out to dry. I say laundry, but the clothes being put out to dry literally all the time, because look, the park, we've had a little bit of respite the last few days, but for much of the last 2 months, it's been absolutely sodden. This, in terms of health conditions, this cannot be a healthy way for especially young children to be growing up. It's just, the conditions in that camp are at best unpleasant and unsanitary. At worst, it's a terrible position to have human beings in. And David,
I must go down and have.
Correct. It is absolutely unsustainable. Long term, this cannot, in 2 months, it's done quite a lot of damage to the park in quite a lot of ways. It absolutely can't continue. I wonder how aware the indigenous people are of their bargaining position, in that, they've got quite a nice little lever in terms of, as you mentioned, Brendan, the Christmas displays, which at the moment can't go ahead. And if Claudia Lopez has sold a lot of stool space to stool holders. She either has to start refunding people and worrying about that sort of thing, or she has to get a move on.
I think that my internet has been in and out here, but just to say, like, in terms of the alternatives, something that sprung to mind, of course, is the old Bronx. Now, obviously, it's not at that stage, and we're not talking about nefarious activities and drugs and things like that. But I mean, Bogotá has precedent about going into a place and cleaning it up, and cleaning it up in whoever's eyes, I guess. But and whatever happened to all those people in the Bronx, that I guess they were scattered to the four corners of the city and elsewhere. So it might get to a stage where, you said Claudia Lopez wouldn't like to have the images of the SMAT moving in and that kind of stuff. It might get to the stage where the majority of the city would be happier to see that happening if this went on.
Yeah, children though, Brendan.
Yeah, well, that's always going to be an issue. But it's a stalemate at the moment, basically. So
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Happens. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, speaking of homeless people and people waiting for the Colombian government to move, we just had the anniversary of Hurricane Iota that devastated San Andres and particularly the island of Providencia in Colombia's Caribbean. Now, Duque promised when he visited the islands that in 100 days that he would have, I think, most of the houses and the damaged properties restored to what they were and even better. El Espectador were quoting that 8% of reconstruction work has taken place in Providencia in terms of houses over a year on. I mean, number one, what was Duque thinking saying that? Because there was never going to be deliverable. And it does sound pretty still devastating there. Like the hospital in Providencia is still in disrepair, I believe. So it's still in a bad way over a year on.
Well, to answer your question there, what was Duque thinking? He was thinking he can give a meaningless soundbite and it won't ever come back to bite him because people just won't remember it. And that's pretty much what has happened.
Yeah, well, of course, he was pulled up on it by Caracol when he said, I actually didn't say it. And then their
Colombia check, yeah.
Yeah, they checked it, and of course he did say it. But it does seem also, obviously Colombian media have been reporting on this, and there are clearly, obviously, Colombians living there, Rizals and mainlanders. But two Al Jazeera journalists were denied entry into Providencia, which again, your antennae go out, kind of making you think, well, why are they denying international journalists access to the island? Like, what is this? So, nothing to see here, guys. This is a Colombian issue, and we're dealing with it. That's what it sounds like. It seems like.
Yeah, it's hard to see the motivations for this. I mean, unless they think that there's some story Al Jazeera are going to dig up that, local news for whatever reason isn't. Seems very unlikely. And it's 2021. It's not like it's hard to get images from Providencia if you want to get hold of them. There's people on the island tweeting to say, isn't this a disgrace? Look at what's not happening, etc., etc., etc. So, that information is already out there, essentially. I wonder to what degree, it behooves the government to deny access. Very strange.
Yeah. From what I know, well, tourists are certainly going and returning, not to pre-pandemic levels, but certainly a decent increase of tourists visiting San Andres from figures I've seen from ANATO over the last few months in their regular press conferences. But Providencia, I'm not sure if it's still that. If it sounds pretty still like in a state of devastation, that it doesn't seem a place that a tourist would go and hang out and have a great time. You know, like, oh, here I am on the beach while the locals are still struggling after a devastating hurricane. It wouldn't seem very appropriate, would it? So I'm not sure. If anyone knows of anybody who's been to Providencia as a tourist since the hurricane, do let us know. We'd be intrigued to know. Or for that matter, San Andres. And is it still obvious the damage that's been done? We would like to hear it, whether you're watching live and send us a message now, or recorded, you can write a message on where you're viewing. Ollie, just a quick thing news-wise, there was a law passed this week in Congress. It's just waiting the signature of said Presidente Duque. The rough translation is the Disconnect from Work Law of 2021. So basically, well, do you get messages from Externado at 7 p.m. or whenever you're officially meant to be off work? And you go, I'm not going to read that because I'm not at work and I'm going to deal with that in the morning. But basically, this law means that you can't be pestered by WhatsApp and emails because, of course, we can be connected 24/7 these days. But now, with this law, you're protected. I'm guessing all Colombians are breathing a huge sigh of relief, all Colombian employees, because now they won't have to deal with a message at 8 p.m. and their job will be secure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this will be enforceable. Portugal have a similar law, interestingly, brought in by the socialists. I mean, I have to say, for me, it's quite good with my employers. They're pretty respectful of working time in general. I think students do some pretty weird stuff, though. I noticed on my email the other day that a student logged into their final exam Zoom meeting at 4 a.m. in the morning, 5 days before the event was taking place, which seemed to me particularly keen. And just yesterday, I had a student submit final work. I had said by the end of the day was my actual words, and he submitted it at 11:59 p.m., which is, I've got to applaud that, frankly.
He was probably waiting for that time. He probably had it done at 11:57.
Oh, yeah, can't be a coincidence. Yeah, I'm sure he finished it at 10 o'clock and scheduled it to send at 11:59. Yeah, great chutzpah. But yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a step forward. I haven't looked in detail at the Colombian law, but I believe, and maybe you can tell me if I'm correct on this, I believe the Colombian law is quite progressive in that it stops employers contacting their employees rather than just allowing the employees to ignore correspondence. Is that true?
Well, I think that's it. Again, I'm not 100% sure on the actual wording of this law and how it will be in, or what's exactly in it. I know kind of just of the gist of it. But like, in fairness, in my full-time position here that I had, you would get messages late at night. Now, I got into a habit, and it's a habit I've kept, of just turning off my phone, like certainly by 9 o'clock, off it went. And I would then, like, some people are going, I was trying to call you at 9:30 there or something. It was not, I had my phone off. Now, I know, obviously, when you use the same device for social and work purposes, well, then that can become a little bit trickier. Yeah. But going to bed around 9:30, that's my exciting life I live these days. I don't really care. Anything that happens can wait until I wake up in the morning and turn on the device again. But yeah, look, I do agree with it too. I mean, in theory, but as we said, the practice will be the thing about this, how it will work. And as ever here, there's job insecurity, or people are frightened of losing jobs. So, they're going to kind of do whatever. And
let's be honest, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people in Strata 4, Strata 5 who will happily sue their employers, get away with it. They'll say, isn't this great? Colombian justice works very well. But for muggins in, Strata 1 and 2 and so forth, it's going to be a very different story.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're kind of moving along here. Time is ticking. Just want to ask you, Ollie, have you been out this week since Tuesday, particularly?
I know what you're getting at. I haven't been to anywhere that would ask, and I did have a little ask around of friends. So a friend went to a craft beer place on the 45, wasn't asked for vaccine certification. There was no hint of it whatsoever. Another friend reported having gone to the BBC and having been asked to provide notification. That said friend was vaccinated in the USA, simply showed a picture of the paper document that the USA give on his phone, and the bartender was quite happy to accept that. So it seems like it's going to be fairly lax.
Okay, and to answer David Allen's question, how am I getting on with the new requirements, considering I am unvaccinated, as regular viewers will know? Well, to be honest, in my neck of the woods, panaderias weren't specifically mentioned, as far as I know, in the requirements. It's essential. Panaderias are essential for life here. So nobody's asked me, obviously, in my local panaderias. Where else have I been? Nowhere else. It's Tuesday. I don't drink midweek or anything like that, David Allen. I'm a good boy midweek. So at the weekend, we'll see, to be honest. But again, I won't be going anywhere fancy. I've been in Centro Comercials, actually, sorry. But you can get into the Centro Comercials. It's some of the businesses inside them. Like, for example, if I wanted to go to Cine Colombia, I would have to show it. So that hasn't happened. But I haven't been to the cinema in about 3 years. I'm letting everybody know how exciting my life has been this last one. But yeah, I really don't expect it. I mean, those in the barrio where I'd have my few drinks at the weekend, no. And to be honest, considering Colombia is at 45.1% as of yesterday, those fully vaccinated, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the barrio that don't have it. Well, I know for a fact there are. And I'm pretty sure that Maria Mercedes Rincon, for example, is not going to say, no, you can't have your 10 pokers here tonight because you haven't got your vaccine, because she wants to make the money. There you go. So in the barrios, I cannot see this at all being asked. Now, I will say somebody did say... But
I think one of the key things here, Brendan, that we've really got to acknowledge, I think, is that, if my friend's experience continues to be the norm, and showing a picture of a piece of paper is acceptable, it seems to be the case that this is being enforced, by bartenders and the like. It's not being enforced by security guards. It's not being enforced by the alcaldía, etc. So I suspect this is going to be a great deal lax. Of course, I would never encourage you to break the law, Brendan, but I suspect you probably could make a piece of paper quite easily and take a photo of it.
Well, of course, go back to my art classes in primary school, Ollie. But if really that is it, just showing something, well, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I kind of thought this might go two ways, that they would be pretty heavy in the first week or two to kind of make a statement, doing random checks. And I'm not sure, was that going to be the police or officials from the mayor's office and the Secretariat de Salud? But I thought they might do that for the first week or two. Indeed, a friend did ask me to go to Gringo Tuesdays, a visiting friend on Tuesday, obviously, for the match. And we had considered it, and I don't want to give away names here, but I was told, yeah, don't worry if you don't have the vaccine, sir. But in the end, I didn't go. Didn't. But I was thinking Gringo Tuesdays could have been a prime example of, let's make a statement, let's go in, and it'd be like El Tiempo, El Espectador, this popular club, this popular venue, popular event, 10 people without their certs, this isn't allowed. So I thought it might go that way, or the other way is nothing will happen for a couple of weeks, and then the media will start reporting, hey, we've got this vaccine cert mandate for certain venues. Yeah, what's happening? And then they make a push in December. so I kind of figured there might be a push at some stage, but it'll peter out. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys.
It's hard to predict. And I think you're correct, Brendan. We will know a lot more one way or the other by kind of Sunday morning. Yeah.
This weekend will be a big, an interesting test for it, we'll say. And obviously the places that are easy to go to, outside of your popular neighbourhoods and all that, and if the police are going to be bothered in the popular barrios populares, of course, are your Zona T, Zona Hey, Parque 93, because that's where people go out. So there you could easily have health officials going around doing random checks. So yeah, we'll probably know, and we'll I guess we'll do more on it next week, and might have more information on how it has actually happened the first weekend of it. But anyway, quick thing on to football. We won't have enough time for a main topic, which of course we're talking about various visas and work that you can do to stay here for on a medium to long-term basis in Colombia. So if you know of people hiring, looking for foreigners, all that kind of stuff, do let us know. But the match, Ollie, the draw specialists, Colombia, 5 games, no goals, and 4 points from a possible 15. The loss to Brazil, of course, this day last week, which was kind of be expected. But I saw a headline and I liked it. Todos por Colombia, menos Colombia. In other words, everybody's going for Colombia except the actual Colombian La Selección, because the other results have been going wonderfully well for our own La Selección de Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely, it's very tight, isn't it? I mean, there's some great expressions in English, but let's not use them in a family-friendly show. But it's extremely tight, that midsection, isn't it? I mean, it's really anybody's guess who's going to finish up fourth and fifth. And right now we've got, 4th and 8th are separated by 3 points. 4 points, I think. Only a couple more points to go down to sort of 9th. So, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely anybody could still go. And it's such topsy-turvy results. It's certainly not going to be decided by January. I suspect in January, Ecuador might book their plane tickets. But 4th and 5th, that's going to be alive and much. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be very exciting. But like again, you look at the remaining games on paper, and to use the old cliche, well, games aren't played on paper; they're played on grass. But like Peru at home, Peru have been hit and miss. Really, like you'd be thinking they got to win that. But as we said, they can't score a goal. Seem to find the back of the net. Argentina away, you can scratch that. We'll say they've lost that. That's going to be 0 point, nul point, and then Bolivia at home. But Bolivia, like, I kind of have a soft spot for Bolivia with this. It'd be, I think, great to see Bolivia at least make the playoff, and then Venezuela. What?
I think the World Cup is slightly sullied by having landlocked nations. I mean,
what would happen if
the only landlocked nation I can think of that's regularly done kind of okay at getting to World Cups would be Switzerland, Czech Republic, I suppose. They're pretty good.
Switzerland.
Yeah, Czech Republic, pretty handy.
Yeah. There are a few other. The US, one would get confused there with all those countries. Bring back the Soviet Union, I say. It was much easier for geography. Yeah, Switzerland, certainly in that regard. But anyway, I was just going to say, to wrap that up, Venezuela, the last game, like if Colombia are relying on getting a result in potentially San Cristobal, where they've played Venezuela the last few times on Venezuelan soil, that's, okay, Venezuela have been pathetic, to be honest. But rumours that Jose Peckerman might be taking over at Venezuela. Haven't got that confirmed, but there have been...
Yeah, Jose...
had been word on the...
I mean, to say he's no spring chicken is to, is to do him a bit of a favour, isn't it? I mean, he's got to be, 110 now?
Come on, Ollie. Don't be mean. Don't be cruel. He's probably close to 70, certainly. But anyway, we'll see quickly because, as I said, time is ticking along. We've been rambling on tonight, but we have to mention our James watch. It was a regular when he was at Everton, but he made his grand return on Tuesday in Barranquilla. He didn't do anything terribly spectacular, but yeah, he played an okay game, I guess, in a team that was playing pretty mediocre. But apparently he was the life and soul of the party at Bayern Munich, Ollie.
At Bayern, yeah.
Yeah, so what's the news behind this? Was it that fans, or what was the exact
story stroke rumour is that, and to be fair, he's been hung out to dry a little bit here, in that it's made it look like he's the instigator. It looks like other players started the night out, but when the night was in full swing, it was James that was leading the party, dancing on the tables, and encouraging everyone to stay out late, and that undermines the squad's confidence in boss Niko Kovac.
Okay, I got that. Some of that, again, internet connection here going in and out. But anyway, just to wrap up on the news, David Allen Simmons, again, they're our third presenter of this show, saying that random checks by health officials sounds like fascism. I think that's happening in some countries and is it? Like, I don't know if that's happening in Ireland. I think it is. They're doing that. Anyway, we'll see, because I do believe even the strict lockdown, so the rumor went that there were plainclothes officials from the mayor's office going around into the barrios, like asking, "Oh, can you give me a bottle of beer?" And it's like, you're not meant to be selling this, and they were fining them for selling things that they weren't meant to during the stricter lockdown. So that was the rumor anyway. It was the fear in the barrios.
Yeah, that sounds to me very much like the kind of thing that everyone definitely knows is happening but can't quite back up. And actually, it's the sort of thing I probably did happen once or twice. Again, it comes back to what we were talking about at the start of the show. Probably happened once somewhere. Whether it's happening on a systematic scale is a hard thing to say. I would say very quickly that I can see it does sound a bit like fascism. It also sounds like regular policing in most countries, where most police in most countries will simply stop you. Maybe not most countries. In many countries, people are regularly stopped by the police and asked to provide documentation, etc., treated like criminals. By default, I'm thinking of stop and search in the UK, US. Does it happen in Ireland? I'm not sure.
No, you're actually not meant to, officially anyway. Yeah, like if the government were.
I'm sure they don't then.
Oh no, never happens. I remember being out with one of my university colleagues, and he was from China, and we were in Temple Bar in Dublin, and the group. We were just walking by, and the police stopped him in particular in this big group and asked him for documents. So there you go. Anyway,
hang on. This is a bombshell revelation. I am making sure to log this YouTube video just for the confirmation that you have been out in Temple Bar in Dublin, which frankly shocked me.
Yeah, I think it was once, never again. Anyway, I'm doing my bit for Irish tourism here. Ollie, you've been here about 10 years. As I said, the 18th of November 2011, I came back into Bogotá after yo-yoing around between Santiago de Chile, Ecuador, Colombia, Ireland, and back to Bogotá. So today is actually my 10th anniversary of this current phase of what I call Plan Colombia. Wow. But I don't have residency. You've been here about the same length of time, and you are a resident, yes? How did you get it?
Bribery. No. Yeah, my 10th anniversary will be in April, so a little bit off. Yeah, how did I get residency? I had 5 years unbroken work visas, and then applied for the residency, whereupon they told me I could actually have applied earlier. Like people often assume it's 5 years to get residency. That's the sort of generally accepted period of time if you have no other circumstances. But yeah, apparently you can apply after a couple of years. It's just discretion. Like many things in the Colombian visa process, there's a lot of opacity. Things are not often clear.
Well, that's interesting because, yeah, I was always under the impression you had to at least reach for that particular visa, and I know they changed the names and the titles and everything. Late 2017. So now you've just got the M visa, which is the migrante, which you generally get if you're an employee, so contracted, or you're carrying out a specified independent activity, but you have all the proper documentation and all of it translated and with the apostles and all that kind of stuff. So that's your M visa, and then there's the V visa, which I'll talk about very shortly, and then you get your OR visa, the route to residency, which everybody talks about. And I thought that if you went the work one, as in your M visa, as an employee...
Wait, sorry, did you say the R visa is the route to residency?
No, I was saying the other one is the one to get to your, residency. Yeah, sorry, well, to make that clear, yes, thanks for just to be very clear on that. Yeah, the M visa is the one you need for your route to residency. But as David Allen Simmons says, he bought a home. So I guess that was once off. Just go in, buy a home.
Let's just pick up a couple of those things. So David Allen Simmons is talking about the investment clause. So if you invest a certain amount of capital into either a Colombian business or a Colombian property, or both, I suppose, you can apply for residency through that route as well.
Okay.
Don't go around thinking you can just buy a home and get residency. It has to be a certain amount of capital. I can't remember exactly what it is. It's a certain amount of minimum wages. So obviously as the minimum wage changes, that the cost of the home, the official cost of the home will go up on that. Just to pick up as well, David Allen Simmons says here a 5-year renewable visa. I suspect he's going to get a shock the next time he tries to renew that visa. They most certainly are not renewable. It's essentially permanent residency at the moment. So my visa has an expiry date stamped into my passport, but the Cancilleria won't change that visa. They'll put maybe a new piece of paper in, but they won't. The actual visa itself will retain as normal, and you don't actually need to get the next bit of paper. You can quite happily travel about. However, some people have reported problems from third parties. So, for example, airlines are not always happy about allowing you to travel on what appears to be an expired visa.
Oh, I don't get that. So your residency, are you saying your residency is for life then?
At the moment, yeah. It's essentially permanent residency, yeah.
Because your cedula that you would get with that...
Cedula needs to be renewed. Cedula needs to be renewed. The R visa doesn't. So I was given a visa residencial, and about 3 months later they changed all the visas to have the new VMR system, which meant my visa was retroactively converted into an R visa, and many of my friends who were much further along the process than me, who have been here a bit longer, went to renew visas in 2019, went to renew visas in 2020, and were told, no, you can't renew that visa. doesn't have an expiry date. And my friend said, look, there's an expiry date. There it is. Physically, it says it expires this month. I need a new one. No, it's fine. Don't worry. We're the Cancelleria. We know that. But like I say, some people have reported trouble with airlines, not with Migración. So airlines have said, we're not sure that Colombia will allow you to enter because your visa's expired. That's been a bit of an issue for some people.
Yeah, well, it does seem a little bit confusing, to be honest, if there's a date printed on it and then it's actually for an indefinite period of time.
Yeah, that's because of the overlap. Yeah.
Okay. So is that normal practice in other countries, that your residency visa is forever, for life?
Yeah, permanent residency is a thing in most countries. Yeah, that's not unusual at all.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean, they sometimes have different names. You get things like right to remain, right to residence, various names for it. But yeah, permanent residency is certainly not an unusual thing. In fact, Brendan, you've actually got permanent residency in the United Kingdom, whether or not you wish to exercise it.
Well, I might just yet. Who knows? I might be there next week. Okay, yeah, I was kind of getting a bit confused actually there. Yeah, okay, so permanent residency, of course, would work. Like my brother in Canada, after 3 years, I think, has permanent residency. I was just going to explain though then on the well, David Allen Simmons just answered that one. Won't marriage give you residency? Well, okay, again, all these things you have to apply.
Exactly. Let's clear this up. Marriage doesn't give you residency. A residency visa and nothing else gives you residency. How you get the residency visa is by qualifying through various different routes, one of which is marriage, one of which is having a Colombian dependent. As far as I can see, if you have a Colombian child or other dependent, you are absolutely guaranteed to pass the process and will not have any problems doing so unless you do something hyper unusual like commit murder.
Yeah, of course. Just to clear, like these are all get married, Cancelleria and go knocking on your door going, oh, here, Brendan, I heard you got married. Here's your residency. Exactly. Obviously, you have to apply for it. It's like that old joke, like, oh, what are the 5 things you need to be president of the United States? And people list off blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, they generally tend to forget that you have to be elected. But of course, now some people will say you don't have to be elected these days to become the president of the United States. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But just, I was going to mention the V visa, which is the current visa that I have in with the Cancelleria at this moment in time. And this kind of took over some of what the old TP visas were, without going into that because that's all old school now anyway. But what happened with the M visa, and as I said, you could be here on an M visa doing an independent activity, but they ask for a lot more documentation when you do the M visa. The V visa, it's a little less hassle, put it that way. Basically, the requirements are write a letter stating what activity you want to do for a list of activities that you can do under this V visa. And the means, your financial means that you can obviously stay in the country and have the appropriate funds to stay here for whatever length of time it may be. And that's if it's a Colombian bank account. So if you're here and you're applying for that, then you'd have to show the last 6 months. Now they also do say that if you have a bank account from outside, you don't need to get it translated or get apostles on it or anything like that on it, as long as it's understandable. It's clearly easy to see, like, okay, this is $10,000 that he's got in his bank account, etc. So the activities are ship or maritime rig crew member, audio visual and or digital production, which is the one I've gone for, journalistic coverage. So that could be here for an election, I guess, next year coming up.
Are we in V or M here?
V. No, V. M only has 2. employee or independent activity, which is obviously quite vague, but there you go. And I guess any of these could be independent activities as well that would fall under M. Then temporary services provider, official or commercial representative of a foreign government. Now, of course, the big thing to note about a V visa is that as things stand, you could have 20 years of V visas and not be on that, as I mentioned, road to residency. You won't be in a position to buy.
Which is why I think it's a lot easier, isn't it? So I just quickly to go back to this marriage thing. Marriage, I think, will give you an M visa. And after a couple of years of an M visa via marriage, and I suspect it will be independent activity, then you go for residency, I think.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so just to finish up then on that, V visa really, the reason why, because of all the other documentation and the various things that they were looking for, the M visa, and there was a lot of back and forth last year. In the end, I just decided to go, well, with La Cancelleria is pushing me towards that direction for the V visa. So I'm hoping that this day next week I'll have that, because if not, I won't be here. I won't be sitting in this same room with this very bland background. Maybe I'll be, I don't know, in San Cristobal in Venezuela with something more exciting in the background. We'll see. But okay, they're the kind of visa options. And just to mention the having a child bit, like I've been told that is the guarantee. Like they could turn you down if you get married, but I'm told that if you actually have a Colombian child, then you're guaranteed. Which I guess that also counts for adoption. Yes?
I think it's any Colombian dependent. I think if you had an elderly Colombian relative, for example, I think also you'd be absolutely nailed on. If you just said, look, I have a grandmother who is 90 with dementia, I need to look after her, I think, again, you're absolutely nailed on. Okay. As long as you're not, as long as you're not, wanted by Interpol or something like that, then you're absolutely guaranteed.
Oh, keep the head down. Well, we were going to mention work, and we don't have an awful lot of time. So, just to finish up, I'll mention this one to keep the American link in. I was listening to a show that I like to listen to, The Three Wise Men of the Hoover Institute, called Goodfellows. Neil Ferguson, John Cochrane, and General H.R. McMaster, a former security advisor to Donald Trump, I think in the first couple of years for Donald Trump. He seems a cool guy, H.R. McMaster, but they were talking about problems around the world. So I was just thinking, you're on about investing and talking about investor visas and stuff. He mentioned about, Colombia's got an election next year, signs that it could go the wrong way. Now, when he means the wrong way, he means very much to the left. So, if you had money right now, Ollie, would you be waiting to see what happens in the first round, and then
I mean, look, there's a lot of uncertainty in the same way that there's a lot of people betting on whether the Colombian peso is going to go up or down. Of course, it's not really going anywhere until the election. I mean, money markets are notoriously flighty about elections, so they'll wait to see who's in power. I suspect Petro is alarming for many people, and it's hard to see what's going to happen. I agree that Petro really could get in. I certainly didn't think that last election. This time I think he has a chance.
Again, as we said, and we said this in previous shows, we just don't know yet. There's so many unknowns going into this election. So when things get a little bit clearer and we have a better indication of the field and the list of candidates, we'll know. As David Allen Simmons, will give him the last word. With the Hoover Institute, left is always wrong. Well, yeah, you're not wrong on that one either, says Wrong Way Corrigan. Guys, yeah, there was a lot more we wanted to get to on that, but we can come back to it in our next episodes. But until next week, if I am here, if not, well, we might come up with some sort of a solution.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Ciao.
And good night. Ciao, ciao.